Well, if you are not prepared, then now is absolutely the time to get prepared, especially considering that countries all across the globe are on pins and needles and praying every day that World War III does not break out, especially considering the likes of the Biden administration, who is constantly poking and provoking the Russian bear repeatedly and over again. And we've got tensions rising between Russia, Ukraine, invasions, by the way, and also NATO, the United States of America, Germany, in fact, all of Europe. We're all talking about now energy crisis, oil crisis, is there gas crisis, and the whole nine yards. And as a reminder, what is headed our way if we end up in some kind of war would be rationing. In World War I, as you're going to see in this report, we had rationing here in the U.S., rationing of food, rationing of products, and energy crisis as well. Also in World War II, we experienced that as well. So if we land in another world war, this is not going to be the United States of America that we want to live in. And this whole darn thing is being provoked. Let's start first with what's going on. Here we have CBSNews.com. Putin orders Russian forces into Ukraine breakaway regions after recognizing their independence. So he recognizes the independence of these two regions and therefore orders forces into those areas in Ukraine's breakaway regions. And this is obviously in creating tensions as well. Here we have Ukraine declaring a state of emergency as a result, tells citizens to get out of Russia. And then we also have, this is where I've been following a lot of the latest greatest on what's going on. And I'm not going to focus too much on the tensions. I want to focus on what comes after if we get into this thing. Russia-Ukraine mass cyber attack targets Ukraine government websites. And you could see key Ukrainian government websites are being disrupted Wednesday in a new cyber attack. An official says a day after the US, UK, and other Western nations sanction Russia for their actions in the two regions there. So there we have it. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, we know Russia has been building their military presence around Ukraine since 2014, even beyond that. But we also know that tensions are rising. We have the United States provoking the bear. And right now, we even have the Biden administration coming out saying, hey, in order to bring freedom to our Ukrainian friends, who, by the way, Hunter Biden is in the pocket of the Ukrainians. He's been getting million dollar paychecks from Ukraine. Does that have anything to do with it? I don't know. I'll just let you be the deciding factor on that, but I digress. Here we now have the president of the United States coming out publicly saying, in order to defend Ukraine's freedom and Ukraine's border, but not defend our own, just Ukraine's, this is going to be a major cost for all of us. Take a listen to what he says here.
Defending freedom will have cost for us as well, and here at home. We need to be honest about that. But as we do this, I'm going to take robust action to make sure the pain of our sanctions is targeted at the Russian economy, not ours.
So Biden says a couple of things here that I want to highlight. Number one, he says we have to defend freedom, because freedom cost us. What exactly is he talking about regarding freedom here? Because let's just put this in perspective. One, he allows our borders to be wide open and anybody and everybody can come in. In fact, he'll give you money, free healthcare, these kinds of things. This is what he's after here in the U.S. However, if it's over in the Ukrainian border, well, the tables are turned. We have to defend their quote unquote freedom. And remember this, I don't care. I'm not a fan of Putin. I sure the hell am not, because they both have dictatorial powers that they've been doing. And I'm sure the hell not a fan of Zelensky either of them. That said, if we're going to defend freedom, how about we defend a country who is actually free? Because over in Ukraine, Zelensky has been arresting his political opposition and shutting down newspapers and TVs that dare even criticize him. You don't do that in free countries. He's a tyrant. Right? These are actions of tyrant. And I believe both Putin and Zelensky have these tyrant features. But to sit there and say we're defending freedom, so this quote unquote tyrant that we are defending over in Ukraine, why don't we help the Ukrainian people? That would be better, right? Get them somebody better in charge. But I digress, since we have our own tyrant here in the United States of America. It's Biden tyrant helping another tyrant. This is going to cost all of us in the United States of America, and might I say, not just the United States of America, but all across the globe. In fact, the question has to be asked, what exactly is this going to cost us? Joe Biden, why don't you specify? Well, Jen Psaki specified that. Take a listen.
Like the impact that you're on the American public, you mean specifically Americans should expect higher gasoline prices?
Yeah, energy prices, exactly. That's what we want the American public to be aware is a possibility.
So at the risk of this war with Russia, Ukraine, and potentially, God forbid, World War III, nobody wants that because that involves bloodshed, that involves rationing. Nobody wants that. No one here in the U.S. We don't want to lose our troops and the whole 9 yards. But I digress. She says our energy prices are going to immediately start skyrocketing. In fact, they're going to go up. Well, they've already been going up dramatically. So what exactly does that mean? Well, take a look at this article I found on gas prices, AAA. So here they are involved. As oil prices march higher, so do prices at the pump. And it's very recently written, February 22nd. It says, the potential invasion of Ukraine by Russia is having a ripple effect on the oil market, which in turn is driving up the price of gasoline in the U.S. The national average for a gallon of gas has risen $3.53, 4 cents more than just a week ago. A Russia attack would be met by severe financial sanctions led by the U.S. and its allies. Russia will likely retaliate, and that's the key, by withholding oil from the world market, which is already tight and struggling to keep up with demands as nations worldwide move on from COVID-related economic slowdowns. Quote, Russia is one of the leading oil producers globally, behind the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, said Andrew Gross, a AAA spokesperson. And if they choose to withhold their oil from the global market, such a move would eventually be reflected in higher gas prices for American drivers. So, in anticipation of our sanctions that we just put on Russia and Germany's sanctions that they put on Russia, Russia could say, hey, we're going to cut off that supply. And Biden hasn't even been preparing for that kind of cutoff. You know, he's already stopping the Keystone pipeline. He already stopped that here in the U.S. He's stopped our ability to get that precious oil that we need here in the U.S. So imagine the kind of crisis we're talking about. In fact, it's not just us here in the U.S. because our leaders are saying, oh, we're going to be climate friendly and we're just going to cut it all in the middle of a potential war with Russia where we have to rely on Russia for oil. The globe does. Well, and it's not just us, also Germany. Germany is going to be, all of Europe is going to be affected because of this move as well. Here we have Yahoo Finance on Reuters. Germany freezes Nord Stream 2 gas project as Ukraine crisis deepens. So when they freeze that, you know who's going to be at risk from that? Europe. Europe's going to get punished. Russia's not the one being punished for that. It's going to be Europe. In fact, there's an RT News article that I want to bring up to you because it says that could lead to an international energy market collapse. This is their assessment. And here it is, RT. West warned against sanctioning Russia energy sector. Russia is an irreplaceable actor on the global market, according to U.S. credit rating agency. If Western sanctions lead to Russia's oil exports being completely cut off, if they do, the world can expect the international energy market to collapse. And this is according, not to me, this is according to a senior figure at the American rating agency Fitch said on Tuesday. An international energy market collapse. Is that what Joe Biden is talking about when he says that there is going to be a cost for freedom? I don't know. But what I do know is if we end up into war, God forbid, World War II, World War III, right? The Third World War, if we end up in that, and I pray against it, obviously, then let's just go back to history and see what happened in America for World War I, during World War I, and World War II to maybe predict what could happen in World War III, right? This is a prediction based off of history, not based off of my personal assessment, but I'm just going off of history here and asking the question. Here we have the first one here, and this is on historychannel.com. You can see right here, the History Channel, food rationing in wartime America. Here's what happened during World War I. Following nearly 3 years of combat since the onset of World War I, American allies in Europe were facing starvation. Farms had either been transformed into battlefields or had been left languished as agricultural workers were forced into warfare. Now, we've got different kind of warfare today, right? But either way, they had challenges importing food. Right? On August 10th, 1970, shortly after the U.S. entered the war, the U.S. Food Administration was established to manage wartime supply, conservation, distribution, and transportation of food. Appointed head of the administration, Woodrow Wilson, the future President Herbert Hoover, developed a voluntary program that relied on Americans' compassion and sense of patriotism to support the larger war effort. And I mind you, things are different today when you have a liberal mass literally hating the other half of the United States of America. Different tensions today. In order to provide U.S. troops and allies with the sustenance required to maintain the strength and vitality, posters urging citizens to reduce their personal consumption of meat, wheat, fats, and sugar were plastered throughout communities. Slogans, they even developed slogans, food for the win, right? And meatless Tuesdays and wheatless Wednesdays in order to voluntarily change Americans' habits, right? So what happened in World War II? Let's fast forward a little bit. Rationing. In World War II, you see, World War II put a heavy burden on U.S. supplies of basic materials like food, like shoes, metal, paper, and rubber. The Army and Navy were growing, as was the nation's effort to aid its allies overseas. Civilians still needed these materials for consumer goods as well. To meet this surging demand, the federal government took steps to conserve crucial supplies, including establishing a rationing system that impacted virtually every family in the United States of America. What happens during war? Rationing. These kinds of things. Unfortunately, death happens in any kind of war. These kinds of things. And in this case, here in the United States of America, we could be looking at a severe energy crisis here in the U.S. Obviously, this is going to explode our gasoline prices here in the U.S., and we're not talking small. They're already skyrocketing because current shipping supply crisis. Imagine what would happen here if war did break out, if World War III did happen. It would make our empty grocery stores look like a walk in the park. And mind you, they wouldn't be as full either. People are going to panic and all of that. So I just pray that that's absolutely not somewhere that we end up. And by the way, if you want more information on what's going on, get to restrictiverepublic.com. Right now, we're giving it away free for 2 months. It doesn't cost you anything for those first 2 months. Use the coupon code 2 and the number free. Try it out. Watch the videos we have. You can cancel whenever you want. But his latest one, Tucker Carlson to be charged with treason for Russian aid. Great video that he just put up. Justice Knight did. But get to Restrictive Republic. Check it out. Support what we're doing here. Anyhow, I so appreciate every single one of you and what you are doing here. And the bottom line is, I just hope that we don't go into some kind of war because we're already hurting as a society. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. Please don't forget to check out my partner as well, hidewithlisa.com. If you don't have a VPN, now is the time to get one, especially in light of, talks of cyber attacks and hacks. And in order to protect you and your family, this is what a VPN does. And it really acts as if you're searching and looking off another computer. And right now you get 30 days free with them and 50% off for life. It's really a cheap plan, not a bad plan. If you try it out, I encourage you to do so. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.